I'm curious to hear from you, um, as you kind of think about it for yourself or for your team, or just kind of advice you would have. Like, if you have a 2K coming up, like what's going through your mind, right? And I want to talk about tangibles and stuff like that, right? Stuff that you make sure to kind of check off, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But like, what's going through your mind when you have a 2K or a hard effort coming up, or it's, hey, I'm at a erg regatta and I know I got to do it too. Like, I know you
Yeah.
in the last episode you talked about, I think it was right, indoor erg tests and stuff like that. Like, what's going through your mind when on Saturday after or Saturday morning, coach says, hey, we're doing 2K testing, first one of the year. What's going through your mind?
Sure. Yeah. Number one, I'm like thinking about where my training's been for the past month. That is always, like if you're ready for the test, you shouldn't be super worried about it. So that to me is a big one. Is like, hey, how have the last 4 weeks gone? What have my hard sessions been like? Have I been training, hitting all those sessions, stuff like that? Because I think when you've done a really good job of training and it's been really productive, you should be excited to do a 2K. Are they challenging? Absolutely. I have a lot of respect for any workout I ever do. I never tell myself it's going to be easy. Anytime I've done that, it's usually been really, really hard. So I usually try and think realistically about like, hey, where's the pinch point going to be? And I usually am thinking about like, yeah, it's going to come somewhere. And what's my mental ammunition to battle that moment? I can't tell you how many times it's always like comical too, because I'll like be doing a 2K and for no reason, I'm rowing the exact same stroke rating. Nothing's changed, but there's like always this moment in like the 900 meters in where like the split just flickers the other way. And that's usually when I'm like, all right, gotta rally, time to push a little bit but it's just, I don't know, it happens for no reason other than it just happens. And that's my like cue that I gotta like address it really quickly. Um, but yeah, like I used to hate testing. I did have like performance anxiety and stuff like that, but I was really good at training. And what I realized was I just needed to turn every test piece into a training session. And what I mean by that is like when I was doing training sessions, I was really thinking critically about like what's a manageable pace, what's a risky pace, and trying to make sure that I was doing like the majority of the workout at like a manageable pace. And then once I reached like a certain threshold, then I could like start going for the risky pace. And when I look back to my testing, I was kind of always holding the risky pace, and that was just like dumb. It's like, hey, you're doing 100% of the duration at like this almost unsustainable pacing strategy. And once I started to like commit to, all right, I'm gonna do half of it at a pace that I know I can hold, then I was like unlocking this really great potential to sprint. And once I figured that out, like I started getting a lot of progress in my 2K tests. Almost like I PR'd every single year in college. And I was like pretty close to PRing every single year on the national team as well. And that I think that was really a result of like how I was pacing it. Like I really figured out that when I was doing like 4-3-2-1 for 10-minute pieces, that was just like a good recipe on how to execute the workout. So I sort of like took that approach to 2Ks, and it's like 800, 600, 400, 200. And for me, it's like I'm rowing +1 above my target goal for 800. I'm rowing at my target goal for 600. And then I'm trying to make those like risky pacing moves at 400 meters and 200 meters.
What are some pillars that you try to hit in order to best set yourself up for success on that day? Like, are there specific prep workouts that you do to understand what pace am I able to go at? Are there specific things that you do to get your body adjusted to the rating? Because I think a lot of people, they go in blind to that first 2K,
Yep.
and now they're just guessing, and then guessing expounds, right? Just magnifies, right? If that first 500 is going poorly, well, it's because you went in without any kind of idea of what is an actual good pacing, right? You didn't put yourself in those positions. what does that timeline look like for you or for your team as you gear up for a max 2,000 meter effort?
Yeah. I think the adaptation for 2K training is like anywhere from 8 to 6 weeks out. I think that's like plenty of time. Anything longer than that, I think you might like burn out a little bit. And I like to take the approach of like, hey, let's do one dedicated 2K pacing workout a week and slowly grow the intervals. So, the first one might be 12 by 1 minute on, 1 minute off. And that's just you practicing what does 2K pacing feel like. Yeah, will you be able to probably go faster than your 2K pace on that workout? Sure, just because it's only 1 minute long. But that's like giving you a ballpark of like, I know I'm going to be around this plus or minus one or maybe plus two. And then the next week, let's expand the interval. Let's start doing some 500s now, where you got to go a little longer and you're going to get a better feel for what that 2K pacing is going to feel like. Like if I have guys who are trying to break 620, which is 135, they need to be taking strokes, rolling anywhere from 136s to 134s throughout that workout. So that way they have a good idea of like, hey, how does this number stack up over, 90 seconds or over that 500 meters? And they may find that 136 is like their conservative pace. 135, starting to feel that pinch. And 134 is like burning me up really quickly. And that's like great. I would say then, hey, you're probably in the ballpark of like going sub 620 if you put it together on the right day. And then adding a little more volume in your next session, maybe doing some 750s or some 1Ks. And now you're getting into like really, this is your opportunity to really practice. How do you want to pace it? I'll do mental prep stuff where you maybe set it up for 2,000 meters and do some of those intervals within the 2,000 meters, if that makes sense. So you get to like see, hey, what does an opening 750 at 136 look like while you're looking at like the whole 2K countdown? So you're not just staring at, oh, I may have 750. You're like doing a 750 within a 2K, if that makes sense. And then, yeah, as you accumulate sessions and you're getting a better feel for what pacing looks like and how it all goes, then you're kind of getting a good idea in your head of like, all right, what's feasible, what's like a huge reach, and what's like gun to my head, I know I can do this no matter what. And then I think after you have that information, then you can sit down and come up with like a realistic game plan of like, all right, on my very best day, it's going to look like this. On like a not so great day, it's going to look like this. And on a bad day, it's going to look like this. And I would add that like the first like 1,500 meters should all be exactly the same. Where you get a really good day is like having a phenomenal sprint, or where you get like an okay day is having like a medium sprint. And when a bad day, quote unquote, will be like, oh, I don't have a sprint, but I'm able to kind of like maintain that base pace. Like my goal for February is like on a bad day, I'll probably go 608. On a good day, I'll go 606. And on a really good day, I can maybe crack 604.
And is that first 1,500 meters, like you just outlined, is that first 1,500 meters, you're like, I know I can get to this point pretty confidently at my pace,
Yep.
right? Is that scripted where it's like, I know good day, bad day, or sorry, good day, bad day, okay day, great day, whatever. Like I can get to that last 500 at this pace. Is that what you're kind of
Yep.
telling yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that I think is really nice is when you go about it that way and you get to that 1,500 or that 500 meter to go point, and you're like, hey, I'm like in the range that I said I wanted to be. Now I got to make the most of this. Like a lot of times when I'm doing a test, I'll usually have some number or average split that I'll say like, I'll be really excited if I get to the 1K and I'm here, because then I know like I'm like in the right ballpark. And some days I've had tests that have just not been that great, and I've like been a half a split off of that mark. And it's like, hey, at least I'm like really close. I've rarely ever had a test where it was like, oh my God, I'm 4 splits off of that, mark that I said I was going to be, because I've really paid attention and I've really tried to think critically about my 2K tests in my training. I think sometimes guys can just like do the work and not really think critically about like, how does this apply to my 2K?